News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. Very special show for you this evening. In my big opinion, the taxpayer-funded British institutions that hate the country. I'll deal with this shocking news scandal in just a moment. You will not believe your ears. My Mark Meets guest is one of the world's leading experts on organised crime. Her latest book is about the extraordinary popularity of cocaine, which is now an industry. Will we ever win the war on drugs? In the big story, as pressure grows on Rishi Sunak, could he be out by Christmas? If so, who would replace him? The runners and riders are lining up. We'll be joined by a top Fleet Street insider who has the story. In my Take at 10, ITV have concluded their inquiry into the Philip Schofield scandal. Is it time to put him back on telly? I'll give my final verdict on Schofield, and you won't want to miss it. Plus, we launch an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight countdown to Christmas. And I'll be wearing this very shortly. So 2 hours of big opinion, big debates, and plenty of entertainment along the way. My big opinion is on the way, and I'm not pulling my punches. The institutions that hate this country that we're paying for. But first up, the news headlines and Sophia Wensler.
Thank you, Mark. It's 9 o'clock. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom. A 16-year-old boy has been charged with the murder of Leanne Gordon, who was shot dead in East London on Tuesday evening. The boy has also been charged with the attempted murder of a 20-year-old man and a 16-year-old boy. He was also charged with possession of a firearm and possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. He will appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court on Monday. Met Police have arrested 13 people after thousands gathered for a pro-Palestine march in London today. The Metropolitan Police have also released an image appealing for the public's help to identify a woman. It's part of an investigation into a placard carried at the protest earlier today. Thousands gathered to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Met Police arrested a man on suspicion of a racially aggravated public order offence for allegedly displaying a placard comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. A second man was arrested for carrying an offensive placard. UN officials say there's enough food aid available in Egypt and Jordan to reach 1 million people in Gaza, amid fears of humanitarian aid collapsing. Under a new system, supplies would come in through the Kerem Shalom crossing on the border between Israel, Gaza and Egypt for the first time. The UN says trucks need to be allowed to enter Gaza directly to alleviate increasingly desperate situations in the enclave. Israel has so far rebuffed the pleas from the United Nations to access the crossing. Deputy Executive Director of the World Food Programme, Carl Scow, says the operation is critical.
We need Kerem Shalom to open. Yesterday I think we were trying to use Kerem Shalom for the first time for verification, but not for entry. We need that also so that we can have more order around the UN convoys coming in and to some degree separate them from the rest of the aid that is flowing in through Rafah. And of course, we need a humanitarian ceasefire so that there is the space and the operational environment inside to deliver to all those that need it and in a controlled and orderly way.
And brace yourself as Storm Ellen brings gale force winds and heavy rain to the UK this weekend. And watch out as Storm Fergus moves in on Sunday, bringing some gusty winds. The Met Office says the Midlands, Northern England and Northern Ireland will see gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. Parts of Northern England could see up to 30 millimetres of rain today, with a yellow warning in place until 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is GB News across the UK, on TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
Lovely to have Sylvia Wensler with us. She returns in an hour's time. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, the taxpayer-funded British institutions that hate Britain. I'll be dealing with this scandal very shortly. In the big story, as pressure grows on Rishi Sunak, will he be gone by Christmas? I'll be asking a top Fleet Street insider for more on this developing story. My Mark Meets guest is one of the world's leading experts on organised crime. Her latest book is about the extraordinary popularity of cocaine. Will we ever win the war on drugs? In my take at 10, ITV have concluded their inquiry into the Philip Schofield scandal. Is it time to put Philip back on telly? I'll give my final verdict on Schofield at 10 o'clock. You won't want to miss it. Plus, in a shock new development, Kate Middleton has been crowned the People's Princess in America. A fresh blow to Meghan. We'll get reaction from the Queen of US royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus, tomorrow's front page is at 10:30 with 3 top pundits who haven't been told what to say. And let me tell you, they don't follow the script. Tonight, Diana Moran, Andy McDonald and David Oldroyd-Bolt. And I'm very excited about this, folks, because tonight begins the exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight countdown to Christmas. I'll be wearing one of these because, let's be honest, it's been a hard year, hasn't it? We've all battled and struggled. We've had a cost of living crisis. There's countless wars going on. We could do with a bit of fun and joy. So the countdown to Christmas starts now. And I'll be asking, are Christmas cards worth the trouble? And should you be calorie counting on the big day? That's the countdown to Christmas before 10. Plus, the most important part of the show, your emails. They come straight to my laptop, mark@gbnews.com. This show has a golden rule. We don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. So, a big 2 hours to come. I'll be dealing with Philip Schofield at 10. But first, my big opinion. Universities are where young people go to be taught stuff. The problem is what they're taught. We know that higher education is suffused with ideas like critical race theory, which takes us back to the bad old days of division, segregation, and judging people by their skin colour. Trans ideology, which says you can basically change your sex, and that's being taught as fact at these institutions, for which young people pay handsomely as well as the taxpayer. Now, these universities have ceased to be a place of open debate and the competition of ideas, with public speakers cancelled from events if they don't challenge the particular woke, politically correct scripture. Spend more than 10 minutes in many universities and you'll hear that Brexit's terrible, that Britain has a shameful past, and anybody with right-of-centre views are not just wrong, but bad people. They're to be vilified, they're to be destroyed. In both America and here in Britain, we've heard lecturers talk about safe spaces for students, so they're not exposed to ideas or material that could trigger or upset them. Surely the opposite should be the case. It's university. Our young people, upon whom our future depends, should be exposed to ideas that could trigger them every day of the week. They must be intellectually uncomfortable. They must have narratives smashed and orthodoxies challenged. Young people at university should be the most open-minded in our society, not the most closed-minded, the most bigoted, the most ideological, the most rigid, which they are fast becoming. Young people should be exposed to the attrition of debate, the battle of ideas, which is the story of human history and Western civilization. But I worry that with the culture at some universities, where it seems there's more leftist brainwashing than teaching at play, we risk going backwards as a society. With young people inculcated in the idea that Britain is a dreadful country which has got to apologise for everything, including itself. This creates problems for the future, because one day these young people will be in charge. They'll be running our corporations and our institutions. I worry that we're going the way of American universities, where this week the head of Harvard said that calling for genocide in Israel was not necessarily harassment of Jewish people. Of course, many students reject the woke madness. But as we see in many aspects of cancel culture, they keep their thoughts private, they self-censor, and they don't speak out for fear of attack. They're being bullied, just like the rest of us. Like the students at Bristol University. An ancient institution, a fabulous example of British intellectual excellence, which has quietly ditched the national anthem from their graduation ceremony. Literally, the song of this country. Why have they cancelled it? For fear of offending some students. There are no words. Actually, there are a couple, but they're unbroadcastable. We now live in a country where Britain's institutions hate Britain. You've got BBC TV presenters mocking politicians for conducting an interview in front of the flag of our country, sniggering at the Union Jack, which other countries are laughing at their own national flag. None of them. If you did that in America, it's game over. You got last night at the proms, then the BBC, our national state broadcaster, getting rid of Land of Hope and Glory, presumably because they're so embarrassed about our history and traditions. This is dangerous stuff. We're turning into a country that hates itself, even though we should love the place and be proud. For centuries, we've exported the principles of democracy, the rule of law, tolerance, open-mindedness, free trade, free speech, fair play and decency. And we were the first major power to end slavery. Loving your country is the only way for it to be successful, which is why the magnificent Michaela School in West London, whose intake is predominantly from poorer pupils of ethnic origin, led by Britain's strictest headmistress, Catherine Birbalsingh, is such an inspiration. With a culture of strict discipline, many of these kids wind up at Oxford and Cambridge every year. They're told to be at school on time, the homework has to be perfect and well presented, and guess what they do every morning? They sing the national anthem, and they're taught to be proud of their country. This is bringing young people together, rather than sowing division, which is, of course, in the woke playbook, along with the scourge of identity politics and the culture of victimhood. Now, here on GB News, we proudly play the national anthem at 6 a.m. every morning, unlike certain other broadcasters I could mention. But I think once a day is not enough. In fact, I quite fancy a bit of God Save the King now. So, Dominique... God, I love this country. So, Bristol University gets rid of the national anthem on its graduation ceremony for fear of causing offence. What does that tell you, folks? It tells you we've got a problem. Britain is being cancelled by its own institutions. This move by a top university is a scandal of the first degree. I've marked their coursework and I'm giving them an F. Your reaction, Mark, at GBNews.com. Now, let me tell you that Bristol University is an outstanding seat of education. I think we've got the best universities in the world. I think Bristol's a great place, and well done to the students that managed to get there. But I think it's a big mistake axing the national anthem, and I think it speaks volumes about the nature of higher education in 2023. But let's get a reaction now from my top pundits. Very happy to welcome back to the studio the Green Goddess herself, journalist and model Diana Moran, trade unionist Andy MacDonald, and historian David Oldroyd-Bolt. Well, Diana Moran, can I ask you about this first of all? Your reaction to what Bristol University have done here?
I am so biased and I'm so angry with what I've heard. I'm a Bristolian.
Right.
I was born, bred, educated, all the university, the whole blooming lot.
Oh, really? You went to Bristol Uni as well?
I went to a college that was associated with the university. Part of the university. I'm absolutely furious to hear this. Furious.
Indeed. I mean, what is the messaging here? If we've got to apologise for our national anthem so that some students aren't offended, why would they be offended?
I just do not understand it. As you said in your intro, people go to university to mix with everybody, all sorts. The world is a large place. It's not just Bristol. It's not just over there. Everybody come together, learn a bit from you, learn a bit from you.
Correct.
I just don't understand it.
Indeed. And I think
really
it's
cross.
a really worrying development. David, top historian, I mean, this doesn't have good precedent when you lose the sense of nationhood, does it?
It's a funny thing. It doesn't, but we are quite prey to it. George Orwell wrote in 1941, "It is a strange fact, but it is unquestionably true that almost any English intellectual would feel more ashamed of standing for God Save the King than from stealing from the village poor box." Yeah. We have a long history of intellectual derision of patriotism that is unusual compared with other nations. The French, who are exceptional in their leftism, are also exceptional in their what might be called cultural chauvinism and patriotism. And so these things need not be a disjunct. I think in the case of Bristol, I must admit I wasn't aware that they sang the national anthem during their graduation ceremonies. To get rid of it now can only be seen as a political gesture and one of great weakness. Whom are they seeking not to offend? And who are those people who are so weak that at the end of a degree, which I must disagree with you, university is not for being taught, it is for learning how to think and how to learn for oneself. It's about broadening the mind and being comfortable with alternative ideas. If at the end of 3 years of that, or 7 if you're doing a PhD, you are so uncomfortable with the national anthem of the country in which you live and study, then perhaps you ought to go back and start again.
Indeed, and love of your country shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be left versus right, Andy.
No, I completely agree. I mean, you look at after the Queen died, the Labour Party sang the national anthem at their conference a couple of weeks after.
Great move.
You know, that was a controversial move from Keir Starmer within some areas of the left, but I think he was, you know, kind of trying to solidify that idea that it's not a left versus right thing. Yeah. I have to say, you know, I didn't even know universities sang the national anthem at their graduation.
I don't think they always do.
I've not heard of it before, so I was quite surprised. But, you know, if you do remove it, it probably is political.
Indeed, and we might be making a mountain out of a molehill in regards to this specific graduation ceremony, the nature of it, but I think it's indicative of what's happening at university, Andy, and that's my problem. I think it reflects a wider culture, which is that Britain has got to be ashamed of itself and somehow apologise for its very existence.
I think perhaps, I mean, I don't know. I think it would go on a case-by-case
I mean, would God Save the King, who's that going to offend?
God Save the King, well, I guess if you're not religious, you know, why would you sing it? If you don't believe in the Christian God.
It's the anthem of this country.
But if you're a Republican atheist, why would you sing it?
Because,
what's the reason to?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Does it matter that there are religious or indeed political overtones to the national anthem? The bottom line is it's the country's song, isn't it?
It's the country's song, and I'm proud of it, and I want to sing it.
Indeed. What about higher education in a wider sense? Because we've seen speakers cancelled because they have the wrong views. We've heard about students being given safe spaces so they're not triggered by the wrong ideology. This is a dark place we're going, isn't it, Diana?
It's a very dark place we're going, and can I just go back to the Bristol business? Bristol, yes, it's got the history of slavery. We know that. I'm very very, very aware of it, and we're contrite about it. But also, all the money that was made at the time, we have the university, we have almshouses, Colston's almshouses, we have Colston's Girls' School, Colston Boys' School. We've got so many, Bristol Municipal Charities.
If it wasn't for Colston, Bristol would be one big Tesco car park.
And do you know, we did have this lovely Colston Hall where everybody came, you know, for music, for theatre and the like. The name's gone now. They've had to take it away.
Do you want to deal with the slavery issue? Because, of course, this is unique to Bristol, their huge apology for our past. I mean, should we feel bad about what happened in that time?
I think there's a rather good tradition that the sins of the fathers are not visited upon the sons. This was several hundred years ago. During the intervening several hundred years, Britain played more of a role than any other country in the world in eradicating the slave trade, in prosecuting wars against those who refused to do so, and in making sure that this unmentionable evil never again graced or defaced the West. For Bristol now to feel that it has to re-apologise for something that it spent a great deal of time and money and effort through and its men's lives in extirpating, I think, is ridiculous.
OK, folks, well, listen, I've got 4 words for you. God save the King. Now, coming up next in the big story as pressure grows on Rishi Sunak, will he be gone by Christmas? And if so, who replaces him? We'll speak to a top Fleet Street insider who's got this developing story.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like? I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Well, a big reaction to my big opinion. Bristol University have axed God Save the King from their graduation ceremony. John says, Mark, in Bristol, they're too busy taking kids out of school to go on pro-Palestinian protests. and throwing statues in the sea. I've got to say, Bristol's getting a bit of a kicking, but let me tell you, I've got many viewers and listeners in Bristol. Let me know your thoughts about what the university has done. How about this from Alan? Bristol are going left-wing, as many recent events have shown. But don't worry, when and if Labour gets in, it will be goodbye the national anthem and back to the red flag flying here. Blimey, let's hope not. Alan, keep those emails coming, mark@gbnews.com. I'll be dealing with Philip Schofield at 10 o'clock in my Take at 10. Should he be back on TV? My verdict, you won't want to miss it. But it's time now for the big story. And as pressure grows on Rishi Sunak, with his party divided over the Rwanda plan to stop illegal migrant crossings in the Channel, some are thinking the unthinkable and pushing for Sunak to go. The government's former chief Brexit negotiator, Lord David Frost, good friend of mine, has said the Tories must replace Sunak or face electoral oblivion. While writing in the Express newspaper online, its political editor, David Maddox, has said that whilst Suella Braverman may be in the running to replace the PM should it come to it, it's the business secretary, Kemi Badenoch, who's being lined up for the top job. Maddox quotes a Tory insider as saying, Sunak's gone, it's just a matter of time. It will be, and I quote, Kemi next. Well, I'm delighted to say the man with the story, David Maddox, joins me now. David, what a scoop. First of all, the government's first vote on the emergency Rwanda bill is on Tuesday. If it fails to go through, thanks to Tory rebels, how much pressure does this place on Sunak?
I think the pressure will come before that, actually. We're waiting. We were actually hoping it might be this evening, but certainly Monday or Tuesday morning, for Sir Bill Cash, veteran Brexiteer, ERG member, great man, to pronounce on whether the Rwanda bill meets the requirements of the right of a party, essentially, and would actually work, in their view. The betting is pretty strongly against him saying that, and a lot of MPs are looking at that as the kind of trigger moment to put in letters and to certainly vote against. Personally, I don't think they will lose on Tuesday. They won't lose on Tuesday.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of abstentions, but they will lose later on if the bill goes against.
Yeah, Tory lawyers looking at that legislation reminds me of when the ERG were carefully studying the Brexit withdrawal agreement and indeed the Windsor framework. Always a nerve-wracking time for any Prime Minister. David, how significant is the intervention of Lord Frost, the former chief Brexit negotiator, saying Sunak must go?
I think it is actually very significant. It's interesting. Lord Frost is hoping to be a candidate at the next election. You know, so he's got a reason to kind of chum up to the leadership and to, you know, play friendly and not to kind of get himself barred from standing in a nice, safe seat. But, you know, here he is coming out doing actually what he's very good at. Lord Frost has always been very good at is just speaking truth to power, really, and saying, this isn't working anymore. An awful lot of MPs, and I've quoted him in lots of stories now, are saying this privately and behind the scenes. It needs a few more of the kind of leading figures to come out. Suella Braverman obviously has come out and done it. Robert Jenrick has done as well, which was a very important moment last week. So he's in desperate trouble, Rishi Sunak is, and it's very hard to see how he's going to avoid a vote of confidence.
Well, indeed. I mean, I was absolutely glued to your piece in the Express Online today. You've spoken to a Tory insider who has said Sunak's gone. It's just a matter of time. What might that timeline be? Could proceedings start before Christmas, those letters going into Graham Brady?
It could do. I mean, it could happen in a rush, and it often does. What my betting still would be January. I think MPs still want to think about it. They won't want to. They want to have some sort of organisation, and kind of getting to the point of my article, they want to have some idea about who might replace him. Now, Kemi Badenoch certainly is being lined up as a replacement. There's no doubt about that. If you look at her Twitter feed over the last couple of days, which has suddenly sprung to life amazingly, you can see Very well. I mean, amazing. I mean, one thing that made me laugh was that suddenly she's become a champion of Brexit, having messed up the rule bill and annoyed all the Brexiteers. So, there's no doubt about it. But the key thing about that person you're quoting from my article was that person used to work or has worked for somebody who may be another leadership contender, and yet is saying Kemi's the one. And that was what really made me kind of take up and notice that particular quote.
Most definitely. Why does Kemi Badenoch have so much momentum behind her? There's a suggestion that Michael Gove is a fan.
Well, Michael Gove unofficially ran her campaign last time. Somebody's written into us to remind us that Lee Rowley was the official campaign manager, but it was Michael Gove running her campaign. And this is actually a strength and a terror.
Now, we've just lost the line to David Maddox, but let me tell you, I'm fascinated by this idea that the Prime Minister could be under pressure. I know the public wouldn't take kindly to another Prime Minister. How many would that be in a year? But the Tories are sunk, aren't they? They're going to lose the next general election. And if you're a Tory backbencher, you might be sat there thinking, well, there's nothing to lose. If you face certain political death, perhaps you're going to roll the dice and go for a new leader. Well, I'm delighted to say that we've put 10p back in the meter and David Maddox returns. David, you want to try Virgin Media? It's much better for broadband. But can I ask you, where does this speculation about Kemi Badenoch leave Suella Braverman, former Home Secretary?
The problem is that both of them will be fishing in the same pool, and they will split the vote. When I got cut off there, the Gove thing is a strength and a weakness. Michael Gove, obviously very influential figure, very respected in some ways, but also deeply mistrusted. And there's a constant narrative that Kemi Badenoch will end up being a kind of proxy for Gove, which is a bit unfair on her, but it's quite damaging to her as well. So, Suella Braverman is now the kind of champion of these kind of migration controls, and I think she's the winds in her sails. This will be her time to win that particular contest, but in the end, it's going to be one of those two probably who comes through and takes on somebody like Penny Mordaunt.
When we lost the line there, I was saying that if you face almost certain annihilation at the next election, perhaps as a Tory backbencher, you might think, do you know what? I know it's bonkers, I know it's batshit crazy, but let's have a new leader. Is it possible?
Everything is possible. And yes, it is insane. Actually, going into a fourth leader since the last election is unprecedented.
It's worse than Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it makes kind of dysfunctional football clubs look like quite well-oiled machines. But it's I think the electorate will find it very hard to trust them again after such a mess. But it's in the end, I think a lot of MPs are saying this is going nowhere. We're 25 points behind in the polls. We're going to have not just our worst defeat, we're staring at a wipeout. We're looking at 50 seats, possibly. It cannot get worse. We've got to do something about it.
John Sargent, the former chief political correspondent at the BBC, David, told me last night that Sunak may be threatening backbenchers with a snap election if they don't support his Rwanda bill on Tuesday. What about the idea that Sunak presses the nuclear button and calls an emergency election based around stop the boats, based around the theme of back me on this or sack me?
I mean, there's something to that, but if he does that, he risks becoming the first Prime Minister in history to lose his seat, because the current public opinion of a Conservative Party is, as I was saying, so bad that they would be wiped out. They would be down to maybe 50, 60 seats, unless something really changes. It might narrow, but it's like, that would take Sunak out as the Prime Minister, as an MP. So why take that risk? I mean, the same advice was given to Liz Truss when she was in a terrible spot, but they would have been wiped out to, maybe one or two MPs. Things were so bad with her. So it's just, You know, you can make these threats, but are they realistic? And I don't think it's very realistic.
David Maddox, thank you. It's a brilliant piece in today's Express. Go to express.co.uk. David Maddox is their erstwhile political editor. Coming up with tonight's top pundits, this evening sees the start of the official Mark Dolan Tonight countdown to Christmas. And tonight I'll be asking, are Christmas cards worth the bother? And should you be calorie counting on the big day? Plus, we've been conducting a people's poll. We've been asking if Rishi Sunak falls, who should replace him, Suella Braverman, Penny Mordaunt or Kemi Badenoch? The results are in. I shall reveal all next. Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show. I'll get to your emails very shortly, but let me tell you that it is now the start of our official countdown to Christmas. That's right. We are looking forward to the 25th of December. We're going to celebrate in style with lots of different features on each show, getting ready for the big day. And what we're going to do, we've actually got an amazing spread here. I want to thank producer Dominique, who is a Jewish mother in waiting. She's not a mother yet. She's a lovely Jewish lady, and she's been to the local supermarket and she spent about £1 million on treats. So thank you, Dominique, for this. We've got a fruit iced Christmas cake. We've got mince pies. We've got a cheese board and crackers and a big panettone, which is a sort of, it's a bit of an Italian idea, that, isn't it, David? Yeah. But now adopted by the Brits as a Christmas treat.
Well, I suppose for those people who hate tradition and think that our things aren't good enough and have to look to the benighted continent for food, then yes, panettone will do.
There you go. Well, it's a countdown to Christmas. So first of all, before we get to the really crucial key stories around Christmas, do you have plans for Christmas? What will you be doing for Christmas?
I shall be down in Somerset with my family.
Lovely. OK, yes. And who's cooking?
Not me, which is
Pleased to hear it.
lovely.
No, but that means that the food will be naughty, because if you were cooking, it would all be sort of like healthy stuff, wouldn't it?
No, Christmas time, I do traditional stuff.
How about you, Andy? What does Christmas Day look like?
Funnily enough, I'm actually on GB News.
You are?
I'm on 9 till 11 on the 25th. So,
have you been turfed out by your family?
Oh God, no. We don't really do a big thing for Christmas, but I'm here with the viewers.
But you're stuck here at GB News. You're just like Home Alone. You're like Macaulay Culkin. Exactly, you know what I mean? Just rattling around the GB News studios. And how about you? What are you up to this Christmas, David?
I'm going to be in Nairobi.
Off.
So glamorous. OK, well, look, get stuck in. Maybe you could cut the panettone. Give me a knife. I'm going to sort out the iced Christmas cake. And we're going to talk about Christmas cards, because a report has revealed... Oh, by the way, I haven't done the bubbly yet.
I was just thinking about that.
Should we do that? Do you want to see how we get on with this? It's Prosecco, which is cheap champagne, isn't it? But it's not bad. Let me see if I can get...
Another Italian.
No.
Not the camera, not the camera.
I'll do it.
Are you sure? Have you done it before?
I'm good, yes.
Experienced lady.
Yes.
She knows how to pop a cork. Look at that.
Hey.
What a pro.
And not a drop spilt. Well done.
Whilst that pause, a report has revealed that Royal Mail has been prioritising premium money-spinning parcels over Christmas cards, the delivery of debit cards and even cancer scans from the hospital. One postal worker, speaking in confidence, has admitted that people will still be receiving Christmas cards in January, which, along with the spiralling cost of stamps, begs the question, are Christmas cards really worth the bother? What do you think, Andy? Are they worth the trouble, Christmas cards? Thank you so much.
So, now, oh gosh, it's champagne. But no, now we live in this digital age. I think you can get the digital ones. You can send an email, a text, a video.
Not the same.
I just don't think so. But I'm not surprised at this Royal Mail news. The greedy Royal Mail. They've been ripping off workers for the last couple of years. I'm just not surprised.
Well, yes, you're a trade unionist, and you don't think their terms and conditions are satisfactory.
They are now. Now the CWU have ended their strike action and got a good deal, but they've been ripping them off for years, and it's they're a disgrace.
The problem with you suggesting that you can just send your auntie a sort of Merry Christmas text, right, is that no effort's gone into that. It took you 3 seconds. Whereas if you do a card, you've had to write it, you've had to put some thoughts on paper, you've had to go and buy a stamp, and you've got to put it in a letterbox. It means you care.
I guess so.
Fruitcake?
Fruitcake. Oh, yeah, go on.
No, I'm just,
you or me?
I'm just describing you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm touched. Do we have forks? We're doing this without forks.
You can fork off.
Banter.
That's good. I've been doing this for years now.
Can I pass it to you?
Kind, thank
because
you.
I'm polite.
What about David? You look like a man that would send a Christmas card.
Yes, for precisely that reason. It takes thought, it takes effort, it takes a little bit more
Would
of
you like one of these?
festive spirit, I think. Although it didn't surprise me in the least to read the story to the end and find that Royal Mail had decided to prioritise the sending of parcels for health and safety reasons. Because they bank up at this time of year, and, we've got so many letters in the place. Well, thinking of the time of year, you might think that these might be cards which are important to people. For people are often the sole form of communication they have with people who live abroad or with family they don't see very much. How about prioritising that rather than getting the cash from Amazon for delivering their parcels?
There's another issue with the Royal Mail now, which is a question of trust, because if you send a card, especially if you put a tenner in it for your niece, you don't have the confidence it will arrive, do you, Diana?
First of all, you don't put a tenner in it anymore. Never, ever do something like that.
No, because there are some professionals who can tell when there's money in.
They can look through with scans and things. I'm a great believer in Christmas cards. I've done 100. I've posted
You've done 100?
They've gone. My friends, I hope you've got them now.
How much has that set you back, by the way?
Great deal
the postage.
But wait a minute. You buy the cards from your favourite charity.
Exactly.
So you support the charity, never from the supermarkets. And yes, second-class post, and you just bite the bullet. But just as you've said, you then contact people abroad, people you haven't seen for a long time, lonely people on their own who love to get Christmas cards.
Yeah. You're being far too polite with this little Prosecco, by the way.
Let's
you get stuck in.
Come
Cheers.
on, let's do it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And most importantly, cheers to you. Yes, we have got the countdown to Christmas, and we will be unapologetically celebrating Christmas every night on Mark Dolan tonight. And listen, let's get to the other big story, which I think is fascinating. Christmas is, of course, a time for celebrations, merrymaking and guilt-free indulgence, or is it? High-calorie foods on offer over the festive period include family favourites, mince pies, like these ones, yum, 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 panettone, which we've got over there, it's a lovely Italian sort of sweet pastry, and pre-made mulled wine. But is Christmas Day really a time to keep track? Because some people are worried about their calories on the 25th. So what do you think? Will you be counting the calories on Christmas Day?
Absolutely not. And this gives me my annual chance to remind everybody that Christmas starts on Christmas Eve and goes to the 6th of January. That's the time to eat, drink and be merry. Before that is Advent, when you should be fasting, getting ready for the festive season. And yes, from Christmas Day onwards, fill your boots, eat and drink as much as you can, and then in January go back to being a little more sensible.
Got to be a bit careful about that. You can't you're a youngster. You can't continue to fill your boots and all the rest of it. You've got to think of diabetes, you've got to think of heart problems, all sorts of things. Just be a bit more cautious.
Well, for 12 days, I hope the diabetes wouldn't jump round and bite you.
It could well do. So, yes, I mean, I love my Christmas food, but I am a little wary. I know there's an awful lot of calories in here, about 300, I expect there are, 200 and something. But, OK, enjoy it, but don't go overboard.
I just wonder, I mean, that's how Christmas is for many people, Andy, is to go overboard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And not worry about the consequences.
Particularly in that, like, post-Christmas Day, pre-New Year period of about 5 or 6 days. It's just you eat, you drink, and then you sign up for the gym in the New Year. You spend 3 days in the row doing that. You get too tired, and then it's the New Year.
That period you describe is Christmas. It's a 12-day holiday.
It's fantastic. It's truly British.
Well, I tend to let rip over Christmas, and then I'll sort of go into a more sort of monk-like existence in January. And that's when the credit card bills come in, and when the waistline has bulged slightly. But it's a hard month for everyone, isn't it, January? But look, well done to producer Benjamin, because he sourced these Christmas hats, which are now going to be a key feature in the show until Christmas Day. He also spotted a story in the paper today, and it was a bride who has banned alcohol from her wedding. Because she gave up drinking 3 years ago, so it's going to be a dry wedding. But it's an interesting issue that comes into play over Christmas too. Do you need alcohol to have a good time?
You could say that about any other event in the year, any other parties or the likes of. You don't need it, but we all know that it can add a little fizz and a sparkle to the comings and goings at a Christmas time.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
You don't need it.
No, you don't need
You
alcohol.
will be on GB News, so you'll probably need a drink.
Well, you know, but I don't think you need alcohol to have a good time. But then again, you don't need trainers to go running, but it does help. You know what I mean? It's,
yes.
one of those.
David, do you like a stiff one on the big day?
Always.
Family show. Please, will you behave yourselves? Listen, folks, there you go. That was the countdown to Christmas. Coming up in my Take at 10, looking forward to this. ITV have concluded their inquiry into the Philip Schofield scandal. So is it time to put him back on telly? I'll give my final verdict on Schofield at 10 o'clock. You won't want to miss it. But next up, my Mark Meets guest is one of the world's leading experts on organised crime. Her latest book is about the extraordinary popularity of cocaine, which is now an industry. Will we ever win the war on drugs? That's next.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquia, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like? I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
I'll be dealing with Philip Schofield at 10 o'clock. Should he be back on TV now that ITV have done their inquiry? But it's time first for this. Yes, it's time for Mark Meets, and this evening, one of the world's top crime journalists, Nicola Talley, investigations editor at the highly respected Sunday World newspaper. She's been awarded the Irish Crime Journalist of the Year award 3 times as well. Her brand new book is called Cocaine Cowboys, The Deadly Rise of Ireland's Drug Lords. And Nicola Tallant joins me now. Nicola, thank you so much for your time. There are many illegal drugs available. Why is cocaine so popular?
We just seem to be having a love affair with cocaine for decades at this stage, and Europe in particular is a prolific user. I mean, Ireland is one of the world's global leaders in the use of cocaine. Ourselves, the Netherlands and Spain seem to be the biggest users in Europe. The Colombians are finding no shortage for the demand for their product. We have created multi-millionaires, billionaires, in fact, out of street dealers. And we seem to be just walking ever forward into this blizzard, which has caused a huge amount of damage in communities and various other things.
Well, this is a big change in Ireland. Whatever happened to a pint of Guinness?
Oh, we have those as well. We still like our Guinness. But funny enough, for the book, I was actually talking to one of the addiction experts in this country, a doctor, who suggested that maybe there's something a little bit in our DNA. We like to enjoy ourselves in Ireland. We like to stay up late. We like talking. And really, I suppose cocaine promises all that. It promises a better night. It promises kind of more fun and all the rest of it. Look, the UK as well has a massive problem with cocaine. It is a recreational drug. It's not seen as anything that has any sense of shame attached to it. There's a total disconnect between the users, who are mainly kind of middle class, intelligent, educated people, and what they're funding with every 100 quid, 100 euro they spend on a bag, you know, where that money is going and the sort of problems that are coming back down the lines with it. There seems to be a complete disconnect with that.
Most definitely. I mean, we've heard rumours about cabinet ministers in this country snorting cocaine, high on the Colombian marching powder. How has the popularity of cocaine impacted Irish society? You talked about the damage. How has that manifested itself?
Well, there's a kind of a new breed, and I've no doubt it's exactly the same in the UK, of gangster, of young person who's kind of seeing cocaine and the dealing of it as a career path. They're becoming ever more violent. There's so much money involved that it's a very quick path to riches. And as a result, in Europe, we're talking about children now not being groomed, but being actually radicalised into gangs, in the same way terrorists radicalise people into their communities. And, you know, they're creating killers. It is causing huge problems in largely marginalised communities, again, which the the recreational users can go home at the weekend and shut their doors in their middle class homes, and they don't have to face out into the problems that is being caused by cocaine and drug dealing and the emergence of more and more gangs. But in marginalised communities, the problems are just real and vast. We had a situation in the last couple of years in Ireland, which in my career, I'm 30 years doing crime reporting, I never thought I'd see the day that a 17-year-old child would be kidnapped, murdered and dismembered, and his body parts left around prominent parts of this city. It's a European capital, Dublin. It's not what you expect to see anywhere outside of Mexico. And that's where we're at now. And that line is now being crossed. So it's just becoming ever more violent. And, there's a very sort of privileged few at the top of the cocaine tree, mostly in Dubai. And they are just mega wealthy. They are actually working with terrorist organizations. They're very in with the Russian and the Iranian regime. Hard to believe, actually, the same people I was writing about when I started my career, who were street dealers in Dublin, have actually, are hoping that Vladimir Putin is now going to give them refuge as they move drugs across the planet.
Nicola, you've had huge success in your career as an investigative journalist specialising in organised crime. You're the host of the very popular Crime World podcast, which has had 1 million downloads a month. Have you ever feared for your life covering these stories?
Well, there's been some times it's been a little bit hairy, to be honest with you, but mostly things are okay. In a way, because it's become so globalised, a lot of the people I talk about now are no longer in the country. They've migrated, so that makes things a little bit more comfortable sometimes. But by and large, a lot of criminals, a lot of very high-end drug dealers quite like being almost celebrities. They like being spoken about. Funny enough, sometimes there would be an email or whatever sort of encrypted communication, maybe if you get their age wrong, or if you say something about them that they don't particularly like, they just get onto you. So they're listening too. It's an interesting world. It's a kind of a parallel universe in a way, but a lot of them, guys I'm not talking about, are the quiet ones that don't want a bit of the publicity, but a lot of them that I and others do talk about, know a lot about, probably like a little bit of it.
Nicola, the clock's against us. Let me recommend your brilliant podcast. It's called Crime World with Nicola Tallant, and your new book is out now. I've started reading it. It is a page-turner, let me tell you. Cocaine Cowboys, the deadly rise of Ireland's drug lords. It is out now, a perfect Christmas reading, especially if you want to get away from the in-laws. Thank you, Nicola. We'll catch up soon. OK, folks, I'll be dealing with Philip Schofield after the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's a very unsettled picture over the next couple of days, with low pressure very much in charge of our weather. The first system brought plenty of wet and windy weather, named Storm Ellen by the Irish Met Service, with Storm Fergus sat out to the west, bringing further wet weather through Sunday. Back to Saturday evening, though, and a drier picture across parts of England and Wales, as that band of rain has pushed its way into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland as well, where that heavy rain continues to fall on some very saturated ground. So some flooding is possible here. Under those clear skies, though, further south, we could see temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees, but perhaps just a little cooler across parts of Scotland. So a cloudy start across Scotland, but some sunny skies to begin with across England and Wales before the next system pushes in from the west, bringing some further spells of heavy rain and some strong winds too. Those strongest winds along those Irish Sea coast through Sunday afternoon and evening, but that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards into parts of Scotland through Sunday afternoon. Temperatures here generally around average, but a little milder again across the southwest, around 13 or 14 degrees. It's a cloudy start to Monday for most of us, with outbreaks of light rain and drizzle at times, but some heavier rain across parts of Scotland, pushing in from the east as we go through into Monday afternoon. The best of the sunshine, though, again across Wales and parts of England, where we could see some sunny skies through the afternoon. Temperatures generally around average for the time of year, and there's some hints of something a little bit more settled on the way through next week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Happy Saturday, one and all. It's 10 o'clock on television, on radio and online. In the United Kingdom and across the world, this is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, ITV have concluded their inquiry into the Philip Schofield scandal. Is it time to put Schofield back on telly? I'll be giving my final verdict in just 2 minutes' time. You won't want to miss it. And I'm not pulling my punches. In a shock new development, Kate Middleton has been crowned the People's Princess in America. A fresh blow to Meghan. We'll get reaction from the Queen of US Royal Reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus tomorrow's newspaper front pages and live reaction in the studio from my top pundits and a special surprise guest booked at the last minute by producer Dominique at exactly 10:30. So lots to get through. I'll be dealing with Philip Schofield in 2 minutes' time. But first, the unsackable, the highly professional, the brilliant Sophia Wensler with the headlines.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Sophia Wensler in the GB Newsroom. Some breaking news in the last hour. A murder probe has been launched after a newborn baby's body was found outside a premises in Ipswich. Suffolk police were called at 12:35 p.m. this afternoon after reports that a newborn baby had been found on Norwich Road. The death is being treated as unexplained but is under investigation. 2 men and a female have been arrested on suspicion of murder in connection with the incident and remain in police custody for questioning. Police have also urged the public not to speculate on social media. A 16-year-old boy has been charged with the murder of Leanne Gordon, who was shot dead in East London on Tuesday evening. The boy has also been charged with attempted murder of a 20-year-old man and a 16-year-old boy. He was also charged with possession of a firearm and possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. He will appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court on Monday. Met Police have arrested 13 people after thousands gathered for a pro-Palestine march in London today. The Metropolitan Police have also released an image appealing for the public's help to identify a woman. It's part of an investigation into a placard carried at the protest earlier today. Thousands of people gathered to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. UN officials say there's enough food aid available in Egypt and Jordan to reach 1 million people in Gaza amid fears of humanitarian aid collapsing there. Under a new system, supplies would come through the Kerem Shalom crossing on the border between Israel, Gaza and Egypt for the first time. The UN says trucks need to be allowed to enter Gaza directly to alleviate an increasingly desperate situation in the enclave. Israel has so far rebuffed pleas from the United Nations to access the crossing. And brace yourself as Storm Ellen brings gale force winds and heavy rain to the UK this weekend. And watch out for Storm Fergus as well, as that moves in this Sunday, bringing some gusty winds. The Met Office says the Midlands, Northern England and Northern Ireland will see gusts of up to 70 miles an hour. Parts of Northern England could see up to 30 millimetres of rain today, and a yellow weather warning is in place until 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now it's back to Mark.
We nicked Sophia Wensler of Talk TV. Isn't she brilliant? She returns in an hour's time. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. In a shock new development, Kate Middleton has been crowned the People's Princess in America. A fresh blow to Meghan. We'll get reaction from the Queen of US Royal Reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus, tomorrow's front pages and reaction from my top pundits tonight. The Green Goddess, journalist and model Diana Moran. Trade unionist Andy MacDonald and historian David Oldroyd-Bolt. They're still wearing their Christmas hats. Look at that. Plus, they'll be nominating their headline heroes and back page zeros. A packed hour to come, plus a special surprise celebrity guest at 10:30. Who's it going to be and why? Find out then. But first, my take at 10. As non-events go, it doesn't get more uninspiring than ITV's investigation into the Philip Schofield scandal. In the end, it boils down to a middle-aged man hiding the fact that he's gay for ages. Then he dates a younger male member of the team, perhaps inappropriate but not illegal. And frankly, if having sex with people much younger than you was a problem, Mick Jagger would have been sent to the gulag by now. So why the pearl clutching? Why the moralising, especially from the TV industry, which is hardly the home of family values? Making television producers the arbiters of moral behaviour is like giving Vladimir Putin the Nobel Peace Prize. This external inquiry into a drama that gripped the nation says there was no finding of a toxic culture at the ITV programme this morning. Well, excuse me while I spit out my tea. Ask Dr. Ranj, the handsome TV doctor, who stopped appearing on the show not long after complaining about the aforementioned toxic culture. The inquiry also reports that ITV made considerable efforts to determine the truth about the relationship between Schofield and a member of his team. Yes, Schofield's member was examined closely. Investigators said only one employee on the show, a lowly producer, had any knowledge of the affair. Do me a favour. If it was an open secret in the industry, are you seriously telling me that the people working closely with Schofield and the young lad didn't know, including Holly Willoughby herself? But in the end, it's my view that Schofield has done his time. His behaviour was ill-judged, but not illegal. While Hugh Edwards' alleged procurement of sexy images from a vulnerable youngster online makes his position as the face of BBC News untenable, as the presenter of This Morning, all Schofield's got to do is talk about cooking recipes, whether floral will be the pattern for this spring, and how to get your body beach-ready for the holidays. Mine isn't, by the way. I haven't seen my abs since the Blair years. Now, I broke the internet during the scandal with my bold offer, cleared with GB News bosses, to rescue This Morning temporarily until it's found its feet. Well, this was back in May. Take a listen. So the offer stands. I am willing to present This Morning with my fee going to charity Help for Heroes. This is not a drill. The offer is a firm one. Oh, and if I do have to use Schofield's dressing room, make sure it's been disinfected first. ITV? There you go. Well, I'm always happy to step in during a crisis. It's just my nature. I've done it here a couple of times. More fool ITV for not taking the offer. Their numbers have tumbled. But the dust has now settled. Schofield needs a job and ITV needs viewers, which is why he should be reinstated as the presenter of This Morning as a matter of urgency. If ITV don't go for it, they're dancing on ice. Should Schofield be back on telly? Mark at gbnews.com. I'll get to your emails shortly, but first, my top pundits. The Green Goddess, journalist and model Diana Moran, trade unionist Andy MacDonald and broadcaster David Oldroyd-Bolt. Andy MacDonald, is it time to forgive and forget and put Philip Schofield back on telly?
Absolutely not. I think, we're thinking about the wrong person in this situation. If you look at the young producer or young showrunner that he was alleged to have an involvement with, where's he now? He's currently working in the back of a country pub in the middle of nowhere. I think we're focusing on the wrong person. We should be thinking about how can we get the victim back into the TV industry, who, by no fault of his own, has been thrown out, cast out by the irresponsible actions of a predator. And we're thinking about the wrong person here.
Well, of course, we've got no evidence that Philip Schofield was predatorial. The relationship was considered ill-judged rather than illegal. But you're entitled to your view, of course, Andy MacDonald. David Oldroyd-Bolt, Schofield, forgive and forget?
Well, forgiveness is a Christian virtue, and we should try to remember that at this time of year as at every other time. My thought about this is that it shows once again the danger of having idols who will all too often be in the public eye and all too often be shown to have feet of clay. We need to think more as a society about who we idolise and why we should look up to these people. As you've pointed out in your monologue, Philip Schofield was the most trivial of characters, a man with no apparent virtue or ability beyond the ability to wear fake tan and have fake dentistry on television. So I think it will perhaps prod people into thinking a little more about the people they put on pedestals and a little less about morning television presenters.
Diana Moran, you've been on television for many decades. You've done daytime TV, breakfast television. I think Schofield's done his time. I think that ITV should bring him back as the big star of This Morning. What's your view?
Well, I rather agree with you. I think what he did was incredibly unwise, but it wasn't illegal. And I don't think he's the only celebrity that you and I both know who are a little dubious in some of the things that they do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think he's felt the wrath of people. He's had the disruption at home as well. And I think maybe it's time that we saw him back again.
Well, indeed, because, Diana, this is a very important show This Morning, and they've had new presenters every 10 minutes. It's been like pass the parcel. That's not good for a format, is it?
Not at all. You need somebody regularly that people can tune into. It's like having a friend in your own house.
Yeah, most definitely. What about Holly Willoughby? My heart goes out to her, Diana, because, of course, she suffered a very traumatic experience at the hands of an alleged stalker, an alleged kidnapping plot. Absolutely devastating. I hope she's OK. But what's your view about, her role in all of this and what has transpired now, which is that she's off the show and she may never return to ITV?
I think it's incredibly unfortunate. But unfortunate things happen on television, as we all know. But I feel very, very concerned for her and the stalker. That's very horrid.
Indeed. I mean, what about getting the dream team back, David Oldroyd-Bolt? What about Willoughby and Schofield patch it up and get themselves back on telly?
If that's what the ITV's viewers want, then, as a commercial channel, that's what they are bound to give them, because it's all about getting viewers in and making a profit. And if that really is the demand of the people, well, then I'm rather sorry for the people.
If he doesn't go back to ITV, there's talk, Andy, of him going onto commercial radio. I've also been told by a TV insider that he could be offered £2 million to enter the Big Brother house. Now, does that offend you, given the fact that you're concerned about his behaviour whilst at ITV?
wouldn't say offended. I think it's more just mild concern. You know, why are we giving a man who's admitted all of the things that he's done, why are we giving this man a platform, even if it's not illegal, as you yourself and Diana said, it was incredibly unwise and dubious. You know, why are we giving this man a platform? You know, we look at what he's done to his own family, what he's done to this young producer. It's terrible. We shouldn't be giving these people a platform.
Fascinating stuff. Well, your thoughts, please. Mark at gbnews.com. Is it time for Philip Schofield to go back on TV? But next up, in a shock new development, Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, has become crowned the People's Princess in America. A fresh blow to Meghan. Will get reaction from the Queen of US Royal reporting Kinsey Schofield. Plus, should Prince Harry have British police protection? We'll debate all of that next. And don't forget, the papers are on the way and a surprise celebrity guest at 10:30. See you in 2.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Well, we've got something very special at 10:30, a surprise celebrity guest. Find out why we've brought a celebrity in at 10:30 and a slight change to the format. But let's get to your emails before we go to Kinsey. And let me tell you that a big reaction online to my take at 10, which is all about Philip Schofield. I think it's time that he returned to ITV and to This Morning. I think he's done his time. Margaret says, Philip does not want to come back. It would be very embarrassing for him anyway, so forget it, says Margaret. David says, Mark, absolutely not. Schofield has never had any talent at all. A talking mannequin with a brain of a pea. You don't pull your punches, do you? Dr. Jim Patterson says, Mark, absolutely not. He abused his power and position, not to mention a younger boy. Glenn, hi, Mark. Philip Schofield is yesterday's fish and chips paper. The programme's become stale. However, he may benefit from another format. Joanna, no. Why do we idolise him? Elaine says, of course he should be back on this morning, especially as we managed to get rid of the waste of space. Holly, this morning is nothing without Phil, says Elaine. It's all about opinions, so keep them coming, mark@gbnews.com. It's time now for US News. With the Queen of American showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. And Kinsey, great news for Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton. Tell me more.
Okay, but I quickly just want to say I couldn't find my Santa hat. I'm loving the theme of this show, so I'm wearing my mistletoe. I'll have my Santa hat ready next week. But if we're being honest, these are pretty common results. However, Harry and Meghan have been especially destructive towards the royal family over the last 12 months. So this is significant because it tells us that their actions have had little effect on public opinion here in the United States. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, dominates with a 44% favorability rating. Prince William comes in at number 2 with 36%. Prince Harry, 28%. Meghan, 21%. The Daily Mail poll also revealed that 26% think that the Sussexes are far too involved in American politics. And that might be one of the reasons that Americans have lost interest in them.
And really, it's less is more with the Princess of Wales. She hasn't campaigned to be popular. She's just quietly got on with the job, and Americans appreciate that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because Americans also love Princess Diana, and I think that the two women are so different. So I was like, why do we love Catherine and Diana? Because they're so far apart. Catherine is very quiet and, you know, she's just so delicate. And but they're also both women that put their children first, are just stunningly beautiful and seem very compassionate and kind. So I do think that that's one of the reasons that Americans fawn over both of them.
And also, to use a catchword in America, Kate is authentic, isn't she? And Americans pick up on that.
Very sincere. She doesn't try so hard. And yeah, she is authentic. She's gorgeous. And we love her.
Let's talk about the brand. Harry and Meghan, apparently biggest losers. Tell me more.
When I was saying something about this around at a bar last night, someone, a friend in the industry was like, oh, I bet she just hates this. The Hollywood Reporter, they've revealed the biggest Hollywood winners and losers of 2023. Harry and Meghan, who certainly consider themselves Hollywood elite, have found themselves on the losers' side, Mark. The article says, after a whiny Netflix documentary, a whiny biography, Spare, even the title is a pouty gripe, and an inert podcast, the Harry and Meghan brand swelled into a sanctimonious bubble just begging to be popped, and South Park was the pen. The Hollywood Reporter, basically the Bible in this city. This has got to hurt Harry and Meghan personally, and it's got to have William Morris Endeavor, her current talent agency, scrambling to figure out what their next steps are.
Are we being too harsh on the couple, though? Because if you think about it, we're talking about them. We talk about them every week. Meghan's a beautiful young woman. And, you know, Harry looks pretty smart in his suit there. They're a very rich couple. They're probably the most famous couple in the world now. So they're not getting it all wrong, are they?
I think that Meghan is a beautiful woman, but I wish that her physical appearance, I wish her insides were as pretty as her outsides are. And I don't believe that to be true. I think that we in America, we're so excited to have the Duke and Duchess of Sussex here, and we've been lied to and manipulated along the way, and we're fed up. We don't deal with that well.
Let's talk about the author of this damning book, Endgame. It's all about the royal family. It's all about Harry and Meghan, written by their favourite journalist, Omid Scobie. And I think you've got a development on this.
Well, on the internet, we call him Liebrows, just so we're on the same page. If I accidentally refer to Omid Scobie as Liebrows, I just want you to know who we're talking about. But he confirmed this week that an early and uncleared text of his book Endgame was sent to the Dutch publishers, who included the names in their translation, Omid says, in error. But in response, his publishers said that Omid's explanation was factually incorrect, and they do not recognize themselves in his representation of events. This is not a good look, Mark. This is a man that stays gainfully employed here in America on some of the biggest networks, ABC, NBC, and he's been caught blatantly lying to not only media, but the public about the way this has unfolded.
Of course, you know, we need to say that he's not here to defend himself. We don't have tangible evidence that he's lied. But do you speculate that he deliberately put the names of Princess Catherine and the King Charles, into the book on purpose, almost leaking out the information? Is that your speculation?
You're right. I mean, I should be clear that this could not be a lie. It could just be a case of unconscious bias. Omid Scobie could be completely innocent, Mark. I apologize. Yeah, I mean, there's a fan speculation even saying that maybe, you know, this could be all in an effort to justify if Meghan Markle is to write a book, her being allowed to go into further detail about the incident without the public and backlash from not only the public but the palace, because she could just say, "Oh, it's already out there. It's already out there. I just wanted to clear the air."
Let's talk now, if we can, Kinsey, about a significant piece of correspondence from the late great Queen Elizabeth II in regard to the Sussexes. What's that story all about?
Yeah, this one's difficult, Mark, because there's so many spider webs when it comes to this. But there's a letter from Queen Elizabeth that does state that she feels like she wants Harry and Meghan to have effective security. But in this letter being released, as Prince Harry challenges the decision to not give him this additional level of security, it does seem to make Harry and Meghan look dishonest. It makes Oprah look like, you know, not a very good journalist, because it's putting their version of events during the Oprah interview and during the Netflix series in doubt. So you are saying that this letter exists from the Queen that says she wants you to have effective security. Well, your entire narrative throughout the last few years is that the royal family took this from you, that the royal family is the reason that you feel like your life is in jeopardy. There's also been speculation online that the letter was written well before Harry and Meghan's actions became so treasonous, before they started accusing people of such horrible things in books and podcasts and on reality TV series, or that this letter was written under the impression that this was only going to be that one-year trial period that was discussed during the Sandringham summit, where Harry and Meghan were going to test the waters in Canada.
You would think there, watching that footage of our late great Queen, though, that she would want Harry to have good security. I mean, what's your view on this? I would argue that I know he's left the country, he slagged off his family, and he's a rich man, but it wasn't his choice to be the son of the King of the United Kingdom. He will always be the son of the King of the United Kingdom, therefore a target. So controversially, and this won't make me popular, I think he should have top-level British security for that very reason. What's your view?
I mean, I think it's above my pay grade to determine if the letter means that the Queen wanted Harry to have a higher level of protection. But all I know is that Zara is a national treasure. And if she doesn't have it, why should the Markles?
There you go, devastating and damning verdict. Kinsey, what a treat to have you back on the show. We'll see you in a week's time. Let me tell you that you can listen to Kinsey's excellent podcast. It's called To Die For Daily, and she has a website of the same name. Loving that mistletoe. Let me just embrace you under it, Kinsey, and we look forward to seeing you in a week's time. You're also part of a very special New Year's Day show that we're doing on the 1st. I'll be honest, we're pre-recording it in the next couple of weeks, but it will go out on the 1st. So I look forward to being on the box then, and wishing you a very happy New Year. Coming up, tomorrow's newspaper front pages and live reaction in the studio from tonight's top pundits. And they'll be nominating their headline heroes and back page zeros of the day. But we're doing something a bit different next. We do have the front pages, but then a celebrity guest. Find out why after this. Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Brilliant stuff. Listen, it's live telly, folks. And Dominic, how are we doing with ITV? Because I can tell you that I'm a Celebrity is now coming to an end, and we're going to bring you the latest on whether Nigel is through to the final. And I've got a developing story. Nigel is in the final of I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of here. That's right. It's down to the last three, including GB News star, the man behind Brexit. He is going to the final. No one thought he'd get this far. Can he win it? Well, let me tell you, folks, that we've got lots of voices on this. We're going to go I'm a Celebrity focused for the next 30 minutes. And we're going to do that in the company of legendary dancer and somebody that was in the jungle for the second series, Wayne Sleep. Jonathan, can you give me a little shot of Wayne when you can? And you can see his handsome face. He's ready, waiting in the wings to contribute. So, Wayne, we'll do that. We're also going to go to Australia and get the latest from our top correspondent. But should we do the front pages first, just so we know what's going on in the world? Have we got the papers yet? Sleep, your hair is perfect. Let's have a look. We're going to the jungle in just a moment. If you're joining us, Nigel Farage is through to the last three on I'm a Celebrity. But first, Sunday Express stopped playing games over the boats crisis. Rishi Sunak's defiant challenge to Labour. Also, Kate's casual Christmas greeting. Wales is there with their family celebrating Christmas on their Christmas card. The Sunday Telegraph, Tory Star Chamber rejects the Prime Minister's Rwanda flights plan. Lockdown had catastrophic effect on the poverty gap. And the Met Police hosted mosque chairman who praised Hamas founder. Independent revealed millions of children at risk from killer mould. The Observer, Labour steps up criticism of intolerable killings. Can we get the Observer up, please, folks? Observer, Labour steps up criticism of intolerable killings in Gaza. And as her life ebbed away, Diana Rigg taped a plea for assisted dying. Sunday Mirror, crushed Man United 0, Bournemouth 3. It's one of the most famous brands in world football, but they are struggling at the moment. Will Erik ten Hag last much longer? I don't think Erik ten Hag has got 10 minutes left let alone 10 days. Speaking of which, time to tell the truth on COVID, Sunak is told. And Showbiz exclusive, now Helen joins David's throuple. What does that mean? Well, Helen Flanagan, actress from Coronation Street, has been on a string of dates with David Hay whilst he continues to see his long-term girlfriend. Daily Star Sunday, cheesy chatbot chat-up lines are a huge turn-off. If AI said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? So it turns out the robots are not good at getting laid. Those are your front pages. OK, folks, well, if you're joining us, we're going to focus on I'm a Celebrity now because it's just come off air and Nigel Farage is through. He's down to the last 3. We'll be joined shortly by legendary dancer Wayne, the brilliant Wayne Sleep, who has been in The Jungle, Series 2. He was in the semi-final. But let's go straight now to Australia and GB News star reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, he's done it. He's through to the last 3.
That's right, Mark. He has done it. So we've got 24 hours left to crown Nigel, if you can believe it, crown Nigel King of the Jungle. So just to remind everyone, we have come this far, but you have to keep voting every day, or one more day. 24 hours left, scan the QR code and crown him King of the Jungle. He's in the final 3 alongside Sam and Tony. It was Josie who's just gone home in the last couple of minutes. I say gone home, gone to the Marriott, so don't feel too sorry for her. But yeah, can you believe it? We're here. The Mirror must be furious, but it's just one last step and we've done it.
Definitely. Let's get a bit of intel on this. Can we just raise the audio, please? Because I can't hear a word you're saying. But let me just ask you, first of all, who he's up against. Is Tony Bellew, who's a top boxer. Who else is Nigel facing? Who is this Sam character that he's got to beat?
So Sam is a former Made in Chelsea star. He's a bit of an influencer. He's very popular on Instagram. So he's quite popular with the younger crowd, or at least he was coming into the show. I think this final 3 is sort of one you would have expected. These guys have been popular since they landed in Australia. So it's tough competition, but it can be done. We just have to keep voting. 5 votes if you scan on the app. So make sure you do your duty for Vote Remain.
Yeah, well, what do you think Nigel needs to do to get across the line? I mean, does he just kind of continue to be his natural self? What do you think is going to swing it, Adam?
Yeah, I think being authentic is the most important thing. Obviously, when he came into the Jungle, he had, in terms of the new audience that he was hoping to discover, some of them might have had negative impressions of him based on Brexit, based on politics, based on the media. And actually, since he's been a part of the show, clearly people have learned what he's actually like. And it's working. So don't rock. If Nigel could hear me, don't rock the boat. Keep doing as you're doing. I think he's got one more challenge in him before tomorrow night's final vote. So keep going, stick at it.
Well, what do you think? Before I let you go, I've got Wayne Sleep waiting in the wings, waiting to pirouette into the studio. But can I ask you, what is the percentage chance, do you think, of Nigel winning tomorrow night?
Putting me on the spot here. I'm going to say 80%. 80% chance. I think he's going to do it.
Listen, you put a smile on my face. Adam, excellent reporting from Australia. You've done a great job, and we'll catch you tomorrow night for the results of the final. GB News reporter Adam Cherry. Thanks, Adam. OK, well, live in the studio now is a man who is a veteran of I'm a Celebrity, legendary dancer, former campmate in The Jungle. He reached the semi-final. I think you were down to the last 4. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, it was, yes.
First of all, I think we need to celebrate Nigel's arrival in
I'm so thrilled for Nigel. I did do his show, but that's nothing to do with it. Yeah. I just feel he was the odd one out because he was so much older than everybody, like me.
Right.
And I just felt they sort of treated him sort of with a little bit disdain at times.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, he didn't get any of those stars. Well, he's ruined my title. I got the least ones before him because I only got 2. And the mortification you feel when you go back to the camp, it wasn't the rats or the ugliness or the whatever it was. You go back into a camp and you say you have none, and they think you're joking.
Yeah, for sure.
But I had none. He had none. And you feel so bad because everybody wants the food. And they all say it's fine, but it's not fine, actually. And you just feel you're not worthy of being there because you couldn't do the task.
Well, there was one challenge, and Nigel had to submerge himself in water in order to collect stars. Now, Nigel, I think, enjoys the odd cigarette. OK? I don't think he's got the best lungs.
Okay.
So he just wasn't able to hold his breath for that long, and that's why he couldn't prevail.
I don't think it was that so much. I think he doesn't like water. I think he has a problem just putting his head underwater.
I see.
Like a lot of people have a phobia about it, and he might not have known that then.
Yeah.
But by the look of it, he wasn't even trying to hold his breath.
Yeah.
And you can give up so easily. If they've given you 5 minutes and you've still got another 5, if you think you're dreadful at it, you're not going to care about those other 5 happening because you've already thrown in the towel.
So he's one of the most talked about men in the country, quite a controversial figure, loved and hated in equal measure. Why do you think he's gone so far in the competition? If those that are just watching the show and just joined us, Nigel Farage is going to be in the final 3. How's he done that?
I think, first of all, he's got very good manners. And he's very kind to the other people, and he always says good morning. And things that seem to be lost these days amongst us, not these people.
He's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman. I don't really like him being an authority on everything, but there's in every politician.
Yeah, it's in the nature. What do you think of the series so far? Is it as entertaining as Series 2, in which you were alongside quite a few brilliant people, including, of course, Tuffers?
Tuffers won, Phil Tufnell. Slow left-hand bowler.
The cat, they call him, don't they? So that was a vintage season. It was early doors for the show when you went on it.
Yes.
You didn't know a huge amount about it when you went in.
No, I didn't know anything about it, really, because I'd only seen a bit of the first one.
Yeah.
And in those days, people, not that they did, I'm not saying anything, but people could form groups.
Yeah.
And have 3 together and then try and get the others out of camera. And I did find that as I was the odd one out, I was the slow donkey at the, the entry, Matt, the entry.
Of course.
Yes, and I just kept coming on through. And suddenly when you become a slight threat, where you're not in the picture, people see, I felt I was sort of given a bit of the cold shoulder so that I wouldn't be included, So
it was
suddenly.
very political and it was cliquey.
But these days, everybody knows it so well after 25 years, you can't play those games.
No, of course you can't.
And so I felt that was fine. But Tuffers definitely deserved to win.
Do you think we've seen the real Nigel, or is he just putting on a performance?
No, I think God, I wouldn't imagine he could act himself out of a paper bag. I just think what you get is what he serves.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's got it in him to be shrewd. And if he was being shrewd, it didn't work in his favour. Because he's saying he could cook better and the rice burnt and things like that.
Yeah.
I just honestly believe that's who he is, yes. And I think that's what the audience like.
OK, well, look, Jonathan, are we in a position to bring in my top pundits tonight? Because I'd love to hear what they've got to say. With me, I'm delighted to have Diana Moran, David Oldroyd Bolt, no less, and Wayne Sleep, plus, of course, Andy McDonald.
Oh, we're meant to look down there.
So there you go. So, if you stare down the barrel of the camera, and let me ask you, Diana Moran, your reaction, the developing story, the breaking news. Nigel is through to the final of I'm a Celebrity.
I'm thrilled. I've been watching him. If you remember, I worked with him on one of your programmes, and I found him a delightful man. He was as delightful in the jungle. So, well done to get this far.
Yeah.
And do you think he's had a good strategy, or why has he done so well, Diana?
He's just stayed calm. He's got a good sense of humour, so he's amused with everybody else. He listens, but he's stayed calm.
Andy McDonald, you don't share Nigel's politics, but what's your view of his performance on the show and how he's come across?
I'll be honest, I haven't been watching it, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But I have been voting. I've been following the Michael Booker GBNews whip. I've been giving my 5 votes to Nigel every night. I have to say, though, the most surprising thing for me was seeing Adam Cherry here. I worked for Adam and Paul Staines over at Guido Fawkes over the summer, and it was a joy to see him, so I didn't know he'd moved. But, that was excellent to see.
Oh, yeah, he's enjoying his time down under. Well, yes, the boss, the brilliant Mick Booker, has ordered, it's a 3-line whip that we've got to get behind Nigel Farage, collective cabinet responsibility, and, of course, you can vote. You just have to sort of scan the QR code. I think you can vote 5 times a day for Nigel. We'll put that little QR code up in just a moment. David Oldroyd Bolt, can he go? Oh, there you go. Make Nigel king of the jungle. Scan to vote. Perfectly legal. This is not gerrymandering or anything like that. Let me ask you, David Oldroyd-Bolt, can he go all the way?
Well, I think what Nigel Farage has proved, once again, and to the dismay of all those who dislike him, is that he is an extremely good communicator, one of the most naturally gifted in politics for a great many years. And if he continues to confound the editors at ITV, who I'm sure are trying to make him look as despicable as possible, then he probably will win, and all power to him.
Indeed. Andy, you are a keen political analyst. What are the implications for Nigel's political career if he wins?
I think it's certainly something that the Conservatives should be concerned about. I don't think it's too big of an issue for Labour because they're a right-wing party. If he would stand under Reform UK, he'd have a public mandate there. He'd be king of the jungle, equal only to Andy Burnham, the king of the north. I think it'd certainly show Rishi Sunak and CCHQ that people do actually still quite like him, and the days of UKIP are not gone.
Well, indeed. Wayne Sleep, do you think that his appearance on I'm a Celebrity has won Nigel Farage a generation of new fans?
Yes, I do. Because I think when he was very debating, which way, and he had his own quite hammered point of view with no blinkers, blinkers attached.
Yeah.
He was trying to put a point across, which often didn't come to fruition. And so people think, well, it didn't come to fruition. What you wanted, it's not going to happen. But I think when you compare him to some of the others, he's got a brain and he has a way of communicating, like you just said, to an audience. And that's the best we can hope for from an MP these days, quite frankly.
In some ways, he's already won, hasn't he, David Oldroyd-Bolt? Because he's gone into the jungle, he's not lost his temper, he's not sworn at anyone, and he's not really got into any political hot water either.
Yes.
Yes, I think, as I say, he's a brilliant political communicator. He's extremely good at moulding his own image, the image of Nigel Farage that is so recognisable, that can be conjured up so easily. And I think he will have gone into this with an extremely honed idea of how he wanted to appear and how he's going to make that happen, knowing, of course, that ITV would not want him to appear that way, that they wanted to confect arguments and fights and disputes, and that he's done a brilliant job, as would be expected of anybody who's paid attention to how he's gone about his career, at confounding that.
Well, I think we've got a clip of the big man. Let's have a listen to Nigel Farage. Take it away, Jonathan.
My name is Disruptor, because I've spent my whole life disrupting things. Cyclone! G'day. But you see, the thing is...
I can't look you.
But luckily, I don't care.
Looking great, Nige.
Yeah.
It looks like you've just walked in on your dad wearing your mum's underwear.
If you're just joining us, a massive breaking political and showbiz story. Nigel Farage is down to the last three in the jungle. More on that after this short break.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only three people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquia, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan tonight. If you're just joining us, we've got breaking news, which is that Nigel Farage is down to the last 3 in I'm a Celebrity. So the final is tomorrow. And of course, we're on air at the same time. I've got some very, very good things for you to watch and listen to tomorrow night. My Mark Meets guest is Sarah Lagarde. That's a woman who was hit twice by a train and survived. She tells her amazing story. Anne Widdecombe and much, much more on tomorrow's show. But straight after I'm a Celebrity, we'll bring you full reaction at around 10:30. So do join us for absolute post-match analysis from the jungle. Well, we're bringing it to you now, and it's a big story. Nigel Farage down to the last 3. Can he go all the way? Let's get reaction from former campmate, legendary dancer Wayne Sleep. We also have TV legend Diana Moran. We have trade unionist Andy McDonald and historian David Oldroyd Bolt. Now, Wayne, you were in the jungle. You were down to the last 4, and you were going into the jungle for a brilliant charity. Tell me about that.
Well, it has a personal place in my heart, actually, and I'll always remember the jungle for the reason that I was not on social media, I was not on television, I was a dancer with the Royal Ballet, and I would doubt whether any of the viewers would have known me at all. But suddenly I'm down, and I'm staying. Amazing. All these people from East End have all gone, whatever. Yeah. And what I didn't realise is that the phone calls from folks at home, thank you very much, contributed and added up to nearly £100,000. And it was 25 years ago. So I decided to launch the Wayne Sleep Foundation to help students with their lodgings and food. Because
£100,000 almost, the Wayne Sleep Foundation. And there's a website, people can check it out right now?
Well, it's about 85 francs, I don't know how much.
But decent amount.
It was just a cherry on the icing for me.
Wow.
So, and it's been going for 25 years now.
It's a great, great achievement.
To help people.
It's a great legacy, the Wayne Sleep Foundation. Now, tell me about how Nigel will be feeling tonight. Will he be nervous? He's down to the last 3?
I don't think he really would be nervous about winning or not. I think the younger ones will be. Well, the youngest one will be, the blondie. But I would imagine, the person who's been the coolest is the boxer.
Yes.
And I just feel that he has a way about him that is so natural, not over-oppressive, not over trying to get the limelight, just very quiet in the background. But whenever he's called forward, he's performed.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Diana Moran, do you think this opens up political opportunities for Nigel Farage?
I'm not too sure about that. I think, I think he's possibly gained a lot more respect from people who didn't really know him before, but he may have lost respect with some more serious people. I don't think he's going to win. I think Sam's going to win.
That's interesting. Why do you say that? Why do you think Sam's going to win? Who is Sam?
I think Sam is a radio DJ, but he's full of bubble and bounce, and he's young, and I think he'll appeal to the majority of younger voters.
I see. Oh, that's interesting. What do you think about this? David Oldroyd Bolt, if Nigel wins, what happens next? I mean, does this pave the way for number 10?
That is an unlikely contingency, I think.
There might be a vacancy soon.
What it may well do is mean that it boosts the profile of the Reform Party, of which he is a member, and gives them a chance, if they are well funded and if they are very, very highly targeted in where they use their funding, to take seats from the Tories at the next election. I think that is an equally unlikely contingency, but in British politics, never say never.
Nigel Farage was taking a gamble before going into the jungle. I know Nigel. I think he does have future political ambitions. He's changed the country, at least on one occasion, with regards to Brexit. He's been very vocal in regards to the debanking scandal. And, of course, he's part of a broadcasting revolution here on GB News. He could also take credit for the outcome of the last general election, because it was a deal with the Tories and Boris Johnson to stand down candidates in Tory seats that helped Boris Johnson to that landslide and to keep Jeremy Corbyn out of number 10. So he's a consequential political figure, and he risked all of that going into the jungle, didn't he, David?
No, I don't think it was a risk, because I think Nigel Farage is exceptionally strategic in his political approach. You're right that he is consequential. It has often been the case throughout British history that the most consequential politician of age has not been the Prime Minister, sometimes has not even been a minister, and in Nigel Farage's case has never even been a member of Parliament. And I don't think there's any argument that he is certainly the most consequential politician of the past 20 years. I think he very obviously has political ambitions for the future, because he lives and breathes it. And this is a good thing. I like the fact that we have someone in politics who has a long-term vision of how he wishes the country to look and be, and has worked very, very hard to achieve that, rather than the short-termism and the reactive politics of far too many in frontline politics on both sides of the House.
Andy, do you think Nigel Farage fosters political ambitions?
I'd imagine so. You know, over the last 15 to 20 years, he's probably retired and come back about 6 or 7 times. So I think even when he says it's over, it's never really over. But I'm sure he'll run as a parliamentary candidate for Reform, as he is the honorary president, I think he is. I'm sure he'll be involved in some way.
Diana Mann, very briefly, a couple of seconds if you can. Has it been a good series this year, or is I'm a Celebrity running out of steam?
Well, I found it a good series again this year. We had Josie from Bristol again, that I was always following. I'm in two minds about it.
OK, well, look, I think Nigel's been great. You were great on Series 2. Who's going to win tomorrow night, Wayne?
I think Sam is going to win.
You think Sam's going to win? And how about you, Wayne Sleep? Who do you think's going to win?
Well, oh, God, I just hope it goes to Nigel, because I know him. But I think the Bolsters should win.
There you go. Well, listen, you're all winners in my eyes. Thank you so much to my brilliant team. There you go. Look, there's the potential king of the jungle. Scan that QR code to vote. Thanks to my excellent team for working so hard. My brilliant pundits, Wayne Sleep. We're back tomorrow at 9. See you then. Headliners is next.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather. I'm Ellie Glazier. It's a very unsettled picture over the next couple of days, with low pressure very much in charge of our weather. The first system brought plenty of wet and windy weather, named Storm Ellen by the Irish Met Service, with Storm Fergus sat out to the west, bringing further wet weather through Sunday. Back to Saturday evening, though, and a drier picture across parts of England and Wales, as that band of rain has pushed its way into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland as well, where that heavy rain continues to fall on some very saturated ground. So some flooding is possible here. Under those clear skies, though, further south, we could see temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees, but perhaps just a little cooler across parts of Scotland. So a cloudy start across Scotland, but some sunny skies to begin with across England and Wales before the next system pushes in from the west, bringing some further spells of heavy rain and some strong winds too. Those strongest winds along those Irish Sea coast through Sunday afternoon and evening, but that rain continues to push its way north and eastwards into parts of Scotland through Sunday afternoon. Temperatures here generally around average, but a little milder again across the southwest, around 13 or 14 degrees. It's a cloudy start to Monday for most of us, with outbreaks of light rain and drizzle at times, but some heavier rain across parts of Scotland, pushing in from the east as we go through into Monday afternoon. The best of the sunshine, though, again across Wales and parts of England, where we could see some sunny skies through the afternoon. Temperatures generally around average for the time of year, and there's some hints of something a little bit more settled on the way through next week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens with our team of